Good evening. I'm going to start now, and people might join in the next few minutes, and then I'll kind of close the door on the Zoom room um, so there won't be any other interruptions like that, and I won't have to be nearby to see if someone's waiting. So, welcome, and thank you for coming along tonight or watching the replay of this class about moving meditation. And Um, we're going to talk about what that is right off. So I want to start with my gratitude to the Gadigal people who are the ongoing custodians of the land where I'm walking, and the traditional owners around the world, First Nations people. Um, I'm also having gratitude for the community practicing here, and as always in these practices, for the wisdom of my body. That's what this is about, is having access to that. My passion particularly is movement and the mind-body connection, because it's really powerful. And although I've studied a lot of neuroscience, I'm not an expert in neurodiversity specifically. I'm not here to teach you about that, but I am here to say that if, like me, you've been told all your life meditation is so important, if only you can meditate, it's really essential. And at the same time, I've also been told you'll never get it, it's completely impossible, you're all over the place. Then this is for you, because it really changed my life to find out that I could do those things in a way that works for me. So I am just on a stool here, and then I have a little bit of space back here where I can move around. At the most, if you have this much space, that'd be completely awesome freedom. And if you just have a little bit of space behind your desk, then you can totally make that work too. Um, Everything is crafted by you, and no matter what I suggest, you're in charge of what's happening, and you know what's best for your body and for your mind. At the same time, you're in this class to learn something new. So I'm asking you to give your trust and give things a try. Just find out if it works for you, not take my word for it. So what we're talking about is the type of meditation that means training your mind. And these are our skills that you already have, no matter how scattered you are or focused. You have the ability to move your focus and to notice where your focus is at times. And so the training in that case might be about keeping that focus for 1 second longer, or keeping that focus in a more distracting environment, 1% more distracting. And those little bits add up. I'm just going to close the back door because of a little bit of noise that's distracting me from out there. So, as I'm saying that this class is not about sitting still, there might be some slides on another night, but not today. We all have plenty of Zoom classes that are just about sitting at the desk and typing and that kind of thing. Movement, for most of us, is a change. And so that's one of the first things that makes it really great for our brains. Like, okay, I've been doing this for a long time, and now instead I'm going to look over there. Oh, that's very different. In that case, I'm moving just my neck and my eyes, but it's still doing something very different than I might have been doing for the last little while. When we do those kinds of movements, any kind of movement, with mindfulness, and again, with that like 1% more kind of idea, a little bit more mindfully, and then the next time a little bit more mindfully, as we gain skills, we can shift into meditation, which is a formal practice of the same skills as mindfulness in the informal practice. So let's see. One thing that I want to spell out super clearly is that I'll often say a phrase like, if you want to, or if you're up for it, or if it feels good to your body. And over time, I may repeat that less and less, but it's always true. It's always the movement that feels good to your body, or the amount that you feel like doing today. In most cases, we're going to be doing really small movements, and they are accessible for a large number of people. At the same time, you may feel a little bit sore, like, oh, like I was standing for more than I expected tonight, a tiny bit of soreness. So just being aware of that. It can also bring up things in your thoughts and in your emotions, since that's what we'll be working with. Okay, so let's have a demonstration if you're willing. I'm gonna invite you to show how your week has been so far. And instead of thinking of words that describe that week, some gestures or hand motions or facial expression, something that you feel could convey that to someone, even if you had no language in common. Okay, so even if you're watching the replay, play along and give yourself just a very brief moment to think about what displays how my week has gone, and then go. Mine's been kind of like this, but it started out like this. You might have faster or slower, you might have something more orderly or something more chaotic, something fluid, and you might have something very regular or something that's very different each day of the week. And by thinking about how I am now and how I want to be, and using your body in that inquiry, then you've done embodiment. That's what it's all about. And this practice of moving meditation is not about getting good at meditation. And everything that I do in my work is about getting better at real life. We're not hoping to get better at just the formal practice. We're using the formal practice to get better at staying calm when people around you are having an argument, or when the traffic is terrible and you're running late, or being able to maintain your focus so that you can actually get things done in a way you haven't before, or being able to keep your focus even when there's construction noise right outside your window, or being able to remain calm while you're getting some bad news. There's so many areas of real life that need these basic skills that we learn in meditation, and calm is a huge one for many people. And it's actually a feeling that you might be able to generate in your body by doing meditation. I'm going to take a sip of my beverage. And so I'm feeling, let's stand up for a few minutes. The very first step in every practice that we do is making the decision to arrive. And part of that's mental. And I like to also symbolize it in my body, stepping in or moving towards an area that is the practice place. I'm stepping in physically and inside myself, saying, okay, now I'm going to work on my body awareness. I'm going to work on my ability to calm myself down. I'm going to work on my ability to concentrate. And by setting the time aside in that way, it's a good signal to yourself that this is important. So when we're developing a skill like this, having this ritual element heightens the learning automatically. So stepping into the learning and remembering that you're in charge of everything that you're doing, I'm going to guide a body scan type practice with movement. So it'll just be kind of stretching and wiggling around and starting with the feet. So if I said to you, feel your feet on the floor, you might want to move them around a bit. It makes it a little bit easier to feel. And you can make a light step or a heavy stomp. You might feel your socks, your shoes, the floor. And then your ankles are part of that motion. And choosing how much you want to be still and how much you want to move. And your mind will automatically go to something else. And please don't waste any time thinking, oh, I got distracted again, I'm so bad at this, or anything like that. Just bring yourself back right away with no judgment. Like, okay, back to what's going on with my feet. How about the other foot? Okay. Yeah, and then I'm feeling that ankle joint kind of rocking, and my knees are bending as part of that. You might imagine your attention is like a flashlight that you can put on one part of your body at a time. You can, in your mind, bring that torch up or down. So bringing it up from your knees into your hips. Moves that help you feel your hips are more circular because of the shape of the joint. And then your knees are just straight forward and back. So even at this very basic level, you're learning and reinforcing knowledge that you already have about your skeleton. Letting your attention move up into the rib cage, spine. One thing to keep in mind is that you don't need to look at the screen. Just keeping your eyes here really limits your movement quite a lot. You can just listen to what I'm saying and look all around, letting your neck participate. You can add your hands to the sides of your head, support that motion. And just like in the leg, feeling the difference between your shoulders, elbows, round versus straight hinges. Perhaps seeing your bones and joints like you're in anatomy class, and perhaps just feeling what you can feel. Your skin pulling one direction and another as you move, for instance. And you may notice that if you try to focus on something more detailed like that, you may automatically slow down your movements. You can go fast and slow. It's a good experiment. So what kind of movement are you missing in that whole scan, head to toe? Give your body intelligence a minute to say, okay, one more integration, one thing within my shoulder blades. And then stillness, total stillness again. There's no need to close your eyes, but you can if you want to. I'm going to keep my eyes open and just feeling again what's happening in my feet. Do they feel different from before? Do you notice tingling or heat or sweat or the air on your skin? There might be sounds that you can notice from your body, like my knee just made a noise right then. And my default is to just go right back to moving while I'm thinking about what's going on in my body. So let's repeat that sequence if you like with me. I'm going to do just smaller wiggles. And I'm also going to go at a slower speed. So standing a little bit wider for a really solid base. And I'm sinking specifically into my toes with all my attention and letting my weight go a little bit forward, a little bit back, activating my toe muscles just a little bit, activating the back of my body when my weight comes back. And my arms want to do a little bit of balancing motion. Next, moving my attention to my ankles. First, letting my feet rock from side to side. And even making a circle. Perhaps imagining if you were standing on sand and you wanted to make a really clear impression of your foot. You want to get every part of your foot, all the sides, really pressing down in each part. And just checking in with yourself. Feel free to take a break anytime, whether that means standing a different way or sitting down. Or don't forget, you can always look away, change your position, change what's in your view. I'm going to bring some tiny wiggles into my knees now. With my legs straight. The other leg straight. One way to increase what you can feel is with touch. Now you might see if you can feel the muscles of your legs responding as you try to shift weight side to side. When you're using touch with body awareness, you're feeling it from the inside and the outside at the same time. So you might find that makes it easier to really tune into, okay, quadriceps muscles, here they go. With a little bit wider stance, I can bend the knees more while still just maintaining an easy back and forth. Very little motion. And now the hips coming into focus in my mind. Center of my being, all focused on this intersection of the pelvis and the legs, supporting my every step, supporting me on one foot. Let yourself play with whatever movement feel intriguing, what calls you. And again, with touch, feeling your pelvis, feeling the muscles moving, feeling the angles of your body changing. Concentrating on the skeleton this time, but we don't want to ignore all of our lovely organs inside as well. Moving that torso just little bits. And letting my shoulders pull the ribs from side to side. You might feel one side crunching down and then stretching out. What about if you're twisting that torso? Where do those tiny movements make a sensation in your body? You might have sensations on your skin, like your clothes moving. You might have sensations from your stomach gurgling or your intestines. You have your muscles moving. In a certain spot, you might feel your blood moving, your pulse. What are the other sensations that you might feel in your torso? I can feel the movement of my ribs. I don't know if I can feel my lungs separately to that, but my lungs are feeling. I might feel my heartbeat. I can feel swallowing in my throat. Now I'm going to keep bringing the light up and up. The shoulder girdle, collarbones, all the way around to the shoulder blades. And a tiny wriggle, just your shoulders. What are all the different motions your shoulders can do? Don't forget forward and back, and up, and down, further down. Which motions can you do without moving your arms very much? And which motions of your shoulder blade require the whole arm? Or are enhanced by the whole arm? You might use these kinds of questions to help yourself sink into sensation. But it's more about the sensation than the analysis in this stage. Sensing not just your joint that hinges up and down like this, but sensing the movement of your tendons and muscles, the twist that's available in the front of your arm, and many directions for your hand, fingers, and wrists. In stillness, you can imagine squeezing and just begin to activate those muscles without actually moving. And similarly, in the signals of spreading your fingers apart, preparing the muscles to move before they begin to move. And in our subtleties tour, let's include the scalp and the face, if you like, with some touch, feeling all the parts. And asking yourself, how am I now? How are you, scalp? How are you, forehead and cheek and throat? Checking in. Making that inquiry. How am I now? What are the sensations? What are the thoughts? What are the emotions or the mood that goes with it? And letting yourself compare now with how you felt at the beginning. And it might be that nothing has changed, which is 100% great. It's about gaining your awareness. So you might notice, oh, I feel different from before, or I notice things that I didn't notice. And when you are noticing, that is your mind doing less of something else, which might be worrying or overthinking or spinning in circles. So many people find that doing an exercise of recalling the memory over and over, come back to the sensation. What about this part? What about this part? That action is what I mean, one of the things that I mean when I say doing meditation. It's not an exercise of emptying the mind or transcending. Some types of meditation work that way, but this is not that. In this type, the mind and the body are working together as one, and we are in this reality, and we are solidifying our connection with this reality. That is my aim. The reason I use the name wise body is because in society and in our culture, most people are just using the front of their brains, and all of what we call wisdom or intelligence is focused just on logical operations. And those are super important. It's not all that's going on in our brains. And part of the signals that we get about what's going on in our brains is from understanding these body sensations. The reason is that bodily sensations are connected to emotions. So, in working with emotional regulation and what some people would call controlling our emotions, one of the steps is being able to feel the sensations in my body. The advantage of that is that you can catch things much more quickly. So instead of just suddenly being so frustrated that I blurt out something that I wish I hadn't said, I can feel myself getting frustrated much more quickly. I can do something about it. I can change it, or I can complain more quickly. And so that goes back to the fundamental principle that I mentioned at the beginning, which is we're trying to make our daily lives better. So in this case, you may say, well, okay, I was able to feel the muscles in my arm moving in a way I hadn't before, or I don't often. Or I might say, okay, I settled my mind in that moment. But what does that do for me? So let's talk about that. One thing that it does for you is remind you that you have the power to settle your mind. Maybe you can't go from enraged to just I'm sitting here placidly. And you probably don't want to do that because that anger may have a use and justification. But you may also not want to yell or act out from that anger. You want to have a choice in how you respond to that emotion. So having that choice is the skill that we're developing by getting in touch with our wise bodies. Um, I'm going to check my notes and see what else I would like to give in the introduction before we try another practice. And I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions, please type and I will get to them in just a moment. Okay, I want to just talk about the mindfulness definition in a little bit more detail. So I've heard that the word is mistranslated from the original language, but I'm not pursuing that. The word mindfulness, as we have it now, means that you are paying attention to what's happening in the present moment. And that's ever changing. So it means the ability to keep your attention in that present moment. And in general, mindfulness is about being mindful while you're doing all of your normal things. So you're mindfully washing the dishes instead of absentmindedly washing the dishes or working on your to-do list in your head while you're washing them, both of which can also be useful at different times. The advantage of mindfulness is connecting your mind to the present moment over and over. Has been shown in scientific studies to have surprising effects like increasing immunity. So we know that it increases our self-knowledge and it allows for some slowing down, which has a lot of benefits. It also increases resilience, and that's an effect that has really been important in recent times because so much of what's going on in the world is chaotic. And I'm just going to open the door for the dog. I'll be right back. Oh, my apologies. It's a bit of a construction project here right now, so some things are complicated, like getting in and out of this room. Um, so I'm talking about the effects of mindfulness, and one of the things that's been really important for me is allowing a little bit of space in my mind between me and my thoughts, or me and my emotions, or me and my memories, or me and my reaction. Um, Having a little bit of space there is where you get to make that choice that I was talking about. So feeling like, oh, this request that suddenly I'm hearing from someone I wasn't expecting, it's making me really uncomfortable. I'm aware that I'm uncomfortable, maybe even before it shows on my face. That would be a good benefit. And then I have enough equanimity to say, I need a moment to think about that. And then I can say, oh, I can't help you with that. This is a really a skill that's missing in a lot of people that I work with. And so that's why it sounds kind of esoteric to say it allows you some space in your mind. But that's what I mean is that gap in time, just enough time for me to say, okay, my default would be to just accept whatever this person has proposed, but instead I'm going to say, let's work on that. So it's really important for taking care of basic needs and speaking up, advocating for yourself. Um, One of my favorite things is when modern science backs up these kind of ancient practices, ancient wisdom. And so I love to share the story that as recently as 2018, um, scientists discovered a structure in the brain, a physical structure. It was not known before, nerve cells connecting cerebellum and the amygdala. And so they have a direct connection between physical balance and our emotional center. So when people are talking about emotional balance, it's not just a metaphor. And so working on balance, for instance, by walking very slowly or standing on one foot in yoga class or other types of things like that, you're actually strengthening at the same time some of your emotional abilities. So that's a little bit more about why I'm so excited to share this work with you. And all right, so for the rest of our time, I'd like to share a bit of walking meditation. And walking is a little bit different than the standing body scan kind of thing that we did because you have this rhythm, and that is a big part of the benefit of it. And it's one of the things that you can use as a form of concentration. So as you're walking, you may be thinking about body awareness in the same way we were doing last time. I often lead, uh, you know, the joints of the body or from the skin going deeper. And you'll also see the same effects of settling your mind in the moment and strengthening these skills. With walking, you could also use as an object of concentration the cycle. And one thing you might like to do is give your mind a task, like saying left, right, as you walk. Or as you're walking very slowly, you can perhaps set it into like touching the ground and lifting off. You can choose which foot you're going to follow, or you can try to describe both feet. You could count the steps that you're taking, whether you go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and adding a naming task like that keeps your mind on track because part of your brain is very excited to have a specific task. Oh, okay, I was doing this weird meditation thing I'm not sure about, but now I'm just naming 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a really good way to keep yourself focused. And there's no specific way that you need to walk. However you want to walk is 100% fine. If you have a walking stick or something like that, absolutely use it. And you want to make sure that you don't have anything on the floor in your way. As I said before, you only need a couple steps of space. If you go at the foot of your bed, you might have 4 steps. And on Saturday mornings when we practice at Centennial Park, one of the advantages there is that we have huge amounts of space, and so we can do a much longer practice because we have privacy to walk and really let the rhythm take over. So we're going to get that same feeling with 4 steps forward and back, or we'll see if we do. So you're allowing your body to walk however it wants, and you're observing what's happening. That's the entirety of the practice. As I said at the beginning, you know how to do these things. These are skills you have. And it's also really important that all of it is done with total self-compassion. So if you think, oh, I should be doing a practice right now, but I'm not really up for it, then don't do it right now, or do a different version. If you're feeling like you really need the soothing of nature, then take yourself for an outside walk. You can either take this video with you, or you can get all the instructions that you need to do the practice on your own later. So I'm going to turn to the side here and just take about 4 steps. Oops, I'm going to step on a dog toy first. Okay, so here I have enough space to walk like this, and then I can kind of turn and just walk back. When you have a short path like this, one thing that's useful is to use the turnaround point as one of the reminders of like, oh yeah, I'm not just walking because I'm pacing. I'm walking because I'm practicing walking meditation. And when you hear that, oh yeah, you just go, what's happening right now? What's happening right now in my body? So to begin, starting in stillness with this question of what's happening right now, make your mental note where perhaps your body can memorize this feeling of right now. This is my now body. And I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes of walking. And I'll be speaking some guidance out loud as we go, and some of it will be quiet. So, any pace you'd like to walk is fine. You may want to go more slowly than you would if you're walking for transportation. And just that effort on slowing down can be a vital part of the practice. What now? At any time, stop walking, pause, or change it up. Have a seat if you need. You don't need permission to take a break. Notice what your posture is like without needing to change it. Notice where your eyes fall as you turn. It's happening right now. Oops, I got distracted. It's okay. I'm here. I'm back in the present moment. Sounds are coming in. My body is making some sounds. And my walking is making some sounds. What else do you notice? What now? Mhm. 5 minutes bell is ringing. We're coming back to stillness. And once again, making a comparison. How is your mood compared to an hour ago? You may want to explicitly thank yourself for showing up, for trying something new, for trying something you already know how to do, for taking care of your body and your mind, for being gentle with yourself as you're in a beginner's mode. Take a moment here to memorize the feelings you want to memorize. start to shift your mind out of a meditative state, maybe speeding up more, maybe analyzing more, planning more, a tiny bit more. What is it that you gained in today's practice that you can take into the rest of your day? I'm hoping there was a moment of increased calm or pleasure or concentration, awareness. So, where could you use something like this in your day-to-day life? For me, I am using that calm all day long every day, because it's not something that I got factory installed. So, learning how to build that, find that in my body, bring it to the surface, is a life-saving skill. So, well done to you for dipping your toes in today with me. And please email me any questions that you have, and we'll be back at 6 o'clock next week. For part 2, we'll do some different movements and talk about the theories a little bit differently. And best of all, we'll have feedback from what you've done this week. So I encourage you to watch the replay and do the exercise again when you feel inspired, when you feel you could use a little bit of practice. And if that's 0 times between now and next week, don't let it keep you from coming for the next session, because it'll all come in time. So good to practice with you. Thank you, and I will see you next week.